So we're going to learn the Maimer Basi Lagani in preparation for Yud Shvat. A short history. The Frierdiker Rebbe asked that the Maimer Basi Lagani be published for Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud. Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud is the yard site of the Rebbetzin Rivka. The Frierdiker Rebbe is Bobby. This is the Rebbetzin of the Rebbe Marash. The Frierdiker Rebbe spoke a lot, very a lot about, and especially the stories that he heard from her. And she was also involved in the opening of Timchet Mimim. She helped Deborah Rashab take care of the Pasha Feed the Bachrim. Deborah Rashab opened Timchet Mimim. He I guess he spoke to his mother, and he said that that he's in a bit of a challenging spot because he doesn't want to ask donors for money, because he wants to be the only Deyazaga. He wants to be the only one who has a say in what happens in Timchet Mimim. But on the other hand, he's not going to have money to run Timchet Mimim. So Rebbetzin Rivka told, this is the Frierdiker Rebbe says this, Rebbetzin Rivka told Deborah Rashab that he could open the yeshiva and she'll feed the Bachrim. She'll take care of feeding the Bachrim. So Yud Shvat is her yard site. I forget which year. And the Frierdiker Rebbe had the Maimer prepared and printed. And the Rebbe brought the Maimer to the Frierdiker Rebbe Friday, Test Shvat, and showed it to him. And then the writes that the Frierdiker Rebbe nodded. He was in the middle of saying Veda Pasach Yo. He nodded to show his satisfaction. Now, when the Frierdiker Rebbe published it, he published it as a hemshech, two Ma'amorim, the Maimer Basi Lagani, and the second one I forgot the Dibur Masnei Sheves Beganim is the Dibur Masnei the Frierdiker Rebbe put to it, and that Maimer was to be published Yud Gimel Shvat. The Seis would be on Tuesday. And what happened, of course, unfortunately, there was the Istalkus of the Frierdiker Rebbe on Yud Shvat. And there were another two Ma'amorim in this Hemshech that the Frierdiker Rebbe said will be part of this Hemshech, but since they were to be published only in Purim, and then the fourth installment would be published only in Nisan, so the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't yet make a Kitzurim for the ACS, and he also didn't make a Dibur HaMaschil for the Maimer. So the Frierdiker Rebbe told the Rebbe, I suppose, that this is going to be a hemshech of these four Ma'amorim. Two of them were prepared to print immediately because the day was coming up, Yud Shvat and then Yud Gimel Shvat. And then the next two Ma'amorim would be a month later or 2 months later, and the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't yet put a Dibur HaMaschil. Altogether, there's 20 ACS in these Ma'amorim. And the Rebbe said that this Maimer, Basi Lagani, is the instructions for us that we need to know what to do until the end of time, until Mashiach comes. This Maimer, the Frierdiker Rebbe gave for his Yom Histalkus, in other words, for the time when we won't be able to see him Begashmias and hear his instructions. And in this Maimer, we'll find all of the lessons and the entire approach that we need until we can see the Frierdiker Rebbe again in B'chias HaMesim. So every year on Yud Shvat, the Rebbe would say a Maimer on one Eis of the Frierdiker Rebbe's Hemshech. So the Frierdiker Rebbe's Hemshech has in it a total of 20 Eisias. So each year from Tavshin Yud Aleph until Tavshin Lamed, the Rebbe said a Maimer focusing on the Eis that corresponded to that year since the Istalkus. So in Tavshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe did the first Eis and so on and so forth until Tavshin Lamed, the 20th Eis. Tavshin Lamed Aleph, the Rebbe started a second cycle and went with it until Tavshin Mem Ches, until Tismach. And then the last two Eis we don't have, the Rebbe didn't say a Maimer. Tavshin Mem Tes and Tavshin Nun, the Rebbe didn't say a Maimer. The Rebbe, for the most part, didn't say Ma'amorim after Tavshin Mem Ches. And there was no Maimer for Leisato. For those two Eis, there was no second go-around. So this year, Tavshin Pei Dalid is a cycle. If you do 2020, so Tavshin Nun is the second cycle, until Tavshin Ayin is the third cycle, until Tavshin Tzadik will be the completion of the fourth cycle. So we're holding now on the 14th Eis. Although most people go by the first cycle, do both cycles each Yud Shvat. In other words, so this year is Tavshin Chav Daled and Tavshin Mem Daled, but we'll be learning over here the Eis for Tavshin Mem Daled, which is also in the current cycle. So let's start. The Maimer, the Dibur HaMaschil of the Maimer is Basi Lagani Achesi Kala. So Basi Lagani Achesi Kala, this is Shlomo Melech in Shir Hashirim, which describes the love between the Eibishter and the Yidden. Says that the Eibishter says, Basi Lagani, I came to my garden, Achesi Kala, and he's talking to my sister, my Kala, in other words, to my beloved. It's a poetic way of saying my beloved. Achesi Kala, my beloved, my Kala. And the pasuk in the Pirush HaPashut is talking about when Shlomo HaMelech built the first Beis HaMikdash, and now the Eibishter descended. He came to the Beis HaMikdash and he rested within it. Maybe quick this is maybe the Chami Abner Bal Hayalula B'Mamor Dibur Maskil Zesh Nitan Al Yadel Yom Haystalkus Vaylula Shaloi, and the Frierdiker Rebbe brings in his Maimah that he gave for the Yom Histalkus and for the Yom Hilula the Isiv Medrash Rabbah. The Medrash Rabbah says on this pasuk Legani Lignuni. The Eibishter doesn't say Basi Lagan that I came to a garden. The Eibishter says Basi Lagani, I came to my garden. And how's he touch it? Lignuni L'makim Sheikari B'Tchila. To Lignuni is a lashon of a chuppah, of a chasen. I saw one place they touch it as the chuppah, and another place they touch it as the special house that they would have for the chasen and kala. They would live there after the wedding. About Kopanim, it's the special place that's dedicated for the marriage of the chasen and the kala. So to Legani Lignuni, this is the place, this is the place where I came together in the first place, where I rested, where I showed my presence in the beginning of creation. The Iker Shchina, when the Eibishter first created the world, was down here in Elam Hazeh Hagashmi. However, why do we find ourselves in a situation today where it's not like that? Because through 7 unwanted things, in other words, 7 inyanim of Chet, the Chet Tzadas, and the Derhamabel, Kain Behevel, Chulu. So through 7 unwanted things, Nistalka, Hashchina Milamata Lamaila Adlirki Hashvi, the Shechina ascended and removed itself further and further from this world, from this physical world to the first heaven, the 7 heavens. So it went from the first heaven and then from the first heaven to the second heaven with each Chet until it reached all the way to the 7th heaven, as far away as possible from this world. And after this process of removal of the Shechina, began the Aveda of 7 tzaddikim who arose. Beginning with Avraham Avinu, Echad Haya Avraham Avinu was one, or was the first. These tzaddikim began the opposite process of bringing down the Shechina again down here to this world. Until the 7th tzaddik appeared, who he was Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu was the 7th. And the 7th are the most beloved, the 7th are the most special. Like the Rebbe says, we are in the 7th generation of the Alter Rebbe, we are the Shvim. And he brought it down here into this world. In other words, there's an essential difference between the Aveda of all of the tzaddikim that came before Moshe Rabbeinu and the Aveda of Moshe Rabbeinu. Whereas every tzaddik drew the Shechina down from a higher level down to a lower level closer to this world. However, it was still not in this world b'peil mamish. It went from the 7th heaven all the way down to it went all the way from the highest heaven, the 7th, all the way down to the lowest heaven. But it was still not the way it was when they just created the world down here in this world. Moshe Rabbeinu, who is special because he is the 7th, he actually made the job turn into a reality, and he brought it down into this world. Down here into this lowly world, which there is no world which is lower than the physical world. How did Moshe Rabbeinu accomplish this? Where do we see this primarily? The drawing down of the Shechina, of the Eibishter's presence into this world through Moshe Rabbeinu was primarily through the Mishkan, which Moshe Rabbeinu built. Like it says in the pasuk, that the Eibishter tells Moshe Rabbeinu to tell the Yidden, to command the Yidden, they should make for me a mikdash, a place, a holy place where I will dwell in this physical world, and then I will dwell amongst them. I will rest amongst them, amongst the Yidden. And he teaches, the Mishkan is the idea of drawing down the primary revelation of the Shechina down here into this world, into this physical world. In either in the 13 or the 15 Gashmistic materials that were used to build the Mishkan. It depends how many you count. There's the Seder that he mentions, I think, in the beginning of Parshas Truma, and there's 2 ways to read the words. So you can either count 13 materials or you can count 15 materials. Yeah, we're talking about the gold, the silver, the copper, the urias, the wood, etc. So the Eibishter's Shechina rested in this physical world, in these physical materials. The Seichem Kipshutek, and this is the literal meaning of the pasuk, that you had the camp of the Yidden, you had Degel Machane Yehuda from the east side, and Reuven and the 2 other Shvatim together with him from the south, and you had Ephraim, I believe it was, to the west, And who was the fourth dagel? Who was the fourth head of the remaining three shvatim?
Reuven.
Reuven was to the south. Temana. Yehuda was to the right. Yehuda was with Zvulun and Yisachar, I believe. Reuven, can't remember. But Al Kapanim, you had Ephraim to the west, and then
Binyamin Asher.
no, it was Ephraim, Menashe, and Binyamin. I believe were all to the west. Okay, Al Kapanim, but then you had also to the north. So in other words, and what did you have right in the center? Right in the mid-center, you had the Mishkan. So the Levim and the Mishkan. So the Eibishter was resting literally in between the camp, amongst the Yidden inside their camp. And through this, that the Eibishter was resting in the Mishkan, that the Eibishter should dwell also within them, Lashan Rabim, within every single Yid. Within every single Yid, as the Chazal Darshan on this pasuk. So, in every year when the Rebbe said the Maimer, the Rebbe would start with the beginning of the Maimer and say in very brief what the Frierdiker Rebbe said previously in the Maimer until the Eis that the Rebbe is going to discuss in this particular year. So over here, the Rebbe is going through very quickly what was discussed in the earlier Eisius, in the first 13 Eisius in the Maimer, and that's going to be until Daled, until it's Daled in our Maimer. So we have a question now. We'll get to the question on the inside. Vina, you do a Maimer Azal. It's known the Maimer Azal ala pasuk. That the Eibishter comes. We'll touch first. The Pashta touch of the pasuk is that the Eibishter comes with awesome, with fearsome actions upon people. That the Eibishter is feared when you see the might of the Eibishter, so it brings a fear upon people. However, Alilas also Milashain schemes, like we had recently in Chumash that. I think one of the Shvatim said to the other one of the Shvatim when they were standing in front of Yosef that they're coming on us by Alilas, they're making schemes on us, they're accusing us of false things and trying to make us problems. So there's a very interesting medrash based on this pasuk, a beautiful medrash that Chassidus mentions in a few places. It's a very, in a way, it's a very hard to deal with medrash. It's a medrash that flies in the face of so much that we understand. And this medrash goes as follows. When the Eibishter made Adam Rishon, and Adam Rishon sinned with the Chet Tzadas, so Adam Rishon turned to the Eibishter and said, the Medrash starts with, that the Malach HaMavis was created on the first day of creation, on Yom Rishon L'maaseh Bereishis. Adam Rishon wasn't created until Yom Shishi, until the sixth day. And that's when he sinned, and because of his sin, now the concept of death was created in the world. And the Medrash says, well, if death wasn't supposed to exist before, why did they have to make a Malach HaMavis? We're blaming Adam Rishon. But you see, it was the Eibishter's plan in the first place. He created the angel of death on the first day of creation, 6 days before Adam Rishon was even created, never mind before he actually sinned. And Adam Rishon turns to the Eibishter and told the Eibishter, Alpayim Shana Kodem Teira Le'ilam. The Torah precedes the world by 2,000 years. And in your Torah, which existed long before I sinned, 2,000 years before I sinned, what does it say? Adam ki yamus ba'ayil. If a person will die in a tent when you get to the halachas of Tumah and Tara. So you see in your Torah that which based on the Torah the world was created, you had a plan for death in the world already. So this is obviously your plan that there should be death. And you're blaming me, you're finding an excuse, you're making me the scapegoat. That there should be my fault that there's death. Why are you saying, oh, now there's death in the world because you sinned? There's death in the world because you wanted death in the world in the first place. And the Medrash says it's also going to get to the story with the Shvatim. The Eibishter, with Mechiras Yosef, with selling Yosef. The Eibishter told Avraham Avinu that that your descendants will be enslaved in a foreign land. So now the Eibishter needed the Yidden to leave Eretz Yisrael and to go down to Mitzrayim. This was the Eibishter's plan. So what did the Eibishter do? The Medrash says the Eibishter caused that Yaakov Avinu should have an extra love to Yosef, more than he had for his other children. and that this love should result in a jealousy by the Shvatim. Then Kivyachol, not Kivyachol, then the Shvatim sinned. The Shvatim made a chet that they sold Yosef down to Mitzrayim. They sold him to Mitzrayim. But really, this was all
A setup.
a setup. Mamash a setup. Alilis. That's sort of the Malchus. Yeah. And that's what the Medrash teaches. Hurad Yosef, that Yosef that Yosef was taken down to Mitzrayim. It says, who's Hurad? He was taken down by Hashem. They just sent him down to Mitzrayim so that Yaakov Avinu should later hear that there's food in Mitzrayim, and they should come down, and that Yosef is there, and they should come down. The Medrash gives a muscle. The Medrash says there was once a husband who wanted to divorce his wife. Woke up one morning, he's divorcing his wife. He went to the Sefer, he wrote a get, he's holding it in his hand, he comes home and needs an excuse now. He needs an excuse. So he says, pour me a glass of water. So she pours him a glass of water. He drinks it, he says it's warm. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be hot, it's supposed to be cold. I'm not sure what he was expecting. It's warm. Here's a get. So she turns to him and says, you went to the Sefer, you had the get written, it's sitting there in your hand. You're telling me that you're divorcing me because the cup of water is warm. This is the Medrash Tanchuma. So this is Neira Alila al Bnei Adam, that the Eibishter comes with schemes on people. The Eibishter Pashat schemes and causes situations of Averis by people. And this is the flies in the face of Bechira Chavshis. This is a very difficult thing to understand. It's a very disturbing thought. So every single yid always has the Bechira Chavshis to do what's right. But the Eibishter engineers situations that cause us to stumble. The beer in it is discussed in other places. It's not an easy beer. But I was thinking to myself, what's the lesson to us in this inning of Neira Alila al Bnei Adam? The lesson to us, of course, the lesson first of all is that we shouldn't be hard on ourselves, and we should forgive ourselves, and we should just focus like the tafkid of our generation, like Deborah tells us time and time again, just keep doing things. Maybe one day soon we'll learn the famous Maimer. I forgot it. In Tafshin Yud Gimel. A Maimer where Deborah discusses the Aveda of our times, that we're supposed to be so busy that we don't have time for anything else but just busy doing the Eibishter's work. So don't focus on our failures. But I was thinking, when to get to how we're supposed to behave is when you see somebody who behaves in a certain way. Yeah, you see somebody who behaves in a very miyasa way. He's barking at people in shul. Yeah, he's always constantly screaming at people and being angry and agitated. And you look at him and you say, you know what? It's not his fault. It's not his fault. He had a very difficult mother. His mother gave him a very hard time, where his father didn't know how to give him attention. So it's his father's fault and it's his mother's fault. He didn't have good parents, and it's not his fault. It was Neira Alila. Then you think for a second, so now who's the villain? The villain are the parents. Yeah, the father didn't give attention. The mother was very difficult. And why? Because the father also had a father and a mother, and the mother also had a father and a mother. So it's not their fault. So where does it end? It ends by Neira Alila al Bnei Adam. If you have a complaint, if a person sees Chas Hashem Meguna by somebody else, know where to send the complaint goes to the Eibishter. The complaint goes to the Eibishter, Neira Alila al Bnei Adam, and therefore we should never judge another yid for anything that we see, even for the things that appear to us to be not good. Okay. So the same thing over here, these 7 unwanted events. Beginning from the and the effect of the Chatoim, which was that the Shekhinah should remove itself from this world. It was with intention from the Eibishter all the way from the beginning. This was his plan. He wanted that this should happen. Why? For a Yidid that we should reach somewhere higher. Right, so here's the question. If it was B'kavanah Tchil, why did the Eibishter do it? Or really, we could have asked the question a little earlier also. If the Shekhinah was down here in this world in the first place, then why did the Eibishter make a system that it's going to leave and then come back? So he says, this is Yidid Tzarech Aliyah. What's the Aliyah over here? So he says like this, what was the Eibishter not satisfied with? What was missing from the picture when the Eibishter created the world and the Shekhinah is down here in this world? What was missing? What was unsatisfactory? That the Saveda wasn't done through the Yidden. It wasn't done through Achaysi Kala, through my beloved, through my Kala, which is referring to the Yidden. The Amshach is Zuan. The Amshach is Shalidei Aveda Yisrael. He nihilis Yeser me'amshacha shehi mitzad atzma k'mei shahisa b'tchilas habriya. Because when the Hamshacha is accomplished through the Yidden, when the Yidden are the one who caused that the Shekhinah should rest in this world, it happens in a way which is higher, which is greater than the way it was when the Eibishter first created the world. And that was going to give two biyurim in it. First of all, a technical one, and then one also an Inyan. So let's see the first one. And this is the meaning of the pasuk that tzaddikim will inherit the land. And they will dwell, the Pashtatites, they will dwell upon it for eternity, forever. What's the pirush apnimi of this pasuk? He teaches tzaddikim yirsu aretz, tzaddikim who are down here in this world, v'yishkenu. They do the aveda of being mashkin and drawing down the shechina, b'chinas shechinah d'manim b'kadish, lemata ba'aretz, aleha ba'efen shala'ad. That's how he teaches v'yishkenu la'ad aleha, that the Yidden cause the shechina of the Eibishter, aleha, in this world, la'ad, forever. Ba'efen nitzchi, in an eternal way, which wasn't before when the Eibishter created the world. Mikivan sh'hamshacha al dei aveda d'teira mitzvahs, since the hamshacha is through the aveda of teira and mitzvahs, v'hateira hi nitzchis. And the Torah is eternal. So when the Eibishter created the world, why was the Shekhinah down here in this world? Mitzad Gidrei Ha'olam. Mitzad the Gdarim of Elam Hazeh, the Eibishter Shekhinah was revealed in this world. This is a very important way of understanding things. We think that the Shekhinah naturally does not belong to this world. It's not true. Naturally, in other words, by the nature of the way the world was created before Chet Tzdas, the Shekhinah belongs in this world and is in this world. It's an unnatural state that we got used to and now call nature ever since Chet Tzdas. But the fact that the Shekhinah was down here in this world in the first place was not mitzad Torah, it was mitzad the nature of this world. So it's taka very high madreg to have the Shekhinah over here, but since it wasn't mitzad Torah, it was mitzad the way the world itself is, so it didn't have an eternity, because this world doesn't have an eternity. It's a temporary, transient world over here. Everything falls apart. Masha'enkin, when the Hamshach is through Torah, in other words, through the Aveda of Tzaddikim. The Aveda of Tzaddikim, which, like he mentions in the other in a different Maimon of Basi Lagani, refers to every single Yid. What's our Aveda? We learn Torah and we perform mitzvahs. Now we bring the Shekhinah down here with the eternity of the Torah and the mitzvahs that we perform. And therefore we have a situation of Havayim Lich Leilam Vad, like it says in Oz Yashir, that the Eibishter will be king on this world forever. And this process began with the Hamshachas HaShekhinah, which happened, which was brought into effect in the Mishkan Shasa Moshe, Kol Ma'aseh Yidei Moshe Nitzchi, because all of the actions of Moshe Rabbeinu are eternal. I was learning this Maimon with the Chavrusa, and he asked L'chura, if the Shekhinah is brought down here into this world through the Aved of Yidden, it's supposed to be Nitzchi, and Ma'aseh Yidei Moshe Rabbeinu are Nitzchim. So why was there a stalkus of the Shekhinah from the Mishkan that Moshe Rabbeinu built? It's a good question. I don't know the answer. We could understand with Pashtus that was just the beginning of the process. It wasn't yet the full and complete drawing down of the Shekhinah to this world. There was probably something missing that we are completing now, mamash in our times, mamash in our generation. We're finishing this work and bringing about the scholars of Mashiach Tzidkenu, and then it will taka be nitzchi without end. Okay, but this is not the Iker Biyah, that because it happens through Torah and mitzvahs, that's more an aside in this Maimon. Over here, the Rebbe emphasizes a more teichendike connection between the Aveda of Yidden and the fact that the Shekhinah is here in this world for eternity through our Aveda, and he says like this: why do we now have a higher level of Shekhinah in this world than we had at the beginning of creation? So in the previous case, the Rebbe said that the Torah is eternal, so therefore it's eternal over here, but he didn't address why taka is it on a higher level when they didn't do their Aveda. It was more on a technical level. So he says like this: look, this work that we do dafka after all of the chatoim, which remove the Shekhinah from this world, we do the Aveda today in the times of Galus and in this world Bechlal through the Aveda of Ishapcha, of transforming darkness into light. And when the darkness itself is transformed into light, so then through this you dafka have a much higher light than you would have from a regular light. Okay, and Enkan Mekemi, to discuss this, is discussed in many places in Chassidus, that when you have light someplace. So that's one level. It's light. But when you have a place of darkness and somehow you succeed in bringing in this place of darkness light, so that's a much higher level of light. We can understand this a little bit in Nefesh Adam. When you have a person who by nature has light in him. What do we mean by nature? He has light in him. Let's say he's a very edel person by nature, by birth. Then you have another person who by birth was much more of a crude person, a grub, pashat mitzad his birth, mitzad the teva, the way the made his body, mitzad a guf. And then he works on himself for 30 years, for 40 years, for 50, 60 years, refining himself and ois edeling his chumrius. So now it's a yisrael min acheshech. That person, you'll see a much greater edelkeit in him than you'll ever see in the person who was born with a natural edelkeit. That's the way it is. Pashat b'chush. We see it literally when there's somebody you see a ois gearbeitet mida, a durchgearbeitet mida, it's much greater than somebody who has it naturally. Over here mentions the idea of tshuva, that the Baal Tshuva is much higher, and the Aveda of Tshuva is much higher than the Aveda of Tzaddikim, right? And then the basic beer in this is that a Tzaddik is connected to the Eibishter, but everything is good for him. He's not feeling pressed. He's not feeling challenged. So his connection to the Eibishter is a very smooth and level-headed, so to speak, and easy and relaxed connection. It doesn't touch him so much to his depth, at least not as much as a Baal Tshuva, who feels himself torn apart from the Eibishter Chas v'Shalom, and in his great pain and terror, he screams out to the Eibishter and says, "Oh Eibishter, I'm so distant from you. I want to come close to you." That tnua of tshuva that the Baal Tshuva feels is much deeper and much greater than the Aveda of the Tzaddik. That's why it says the Makash Baal Tshuva Eindim Im Tzaddikim Gvurim Yechelim La'amid. K'maimer, like it says in Chassidus, when the Sitra Achra is bent over, in other words, is subjugated, is not transformed, but even just made to listen to the Nefesh Elikis. So the Shechina of the Eibishter descends and reveals it and becomes present in the entire world. Through the Aveda of Iskafia and Ishapcha, which are two different types of Avedas. But they both have the commonality in them that they deal with the darkness. So Nimshach Gilu Eirnaila B'Yeser, a much higher level of light is drawn down into this world. Which this light is revealed from the Eibishter in a Eifen of Remumus, and that's why it's called in Lashon of Istalik. And again, Deb is speaking very, very in brief. These are all long topics to discuss. But when you say that there's a gili of oir, what are you saying? You're saying like this: you have the Eibishter within himself, kivyachol. You have the Eibishter the way he doesn't reveal himself, the way he's just introverted, so to speak. And then you have the way the Eibishter shines something from him, allows something to come forth. So this is a gili. But just because it's a gili from the Eibishter doesn't mean that it's revealed to us, that we can perceive it and grasp it. So you have two types of Giluim. You have the Gili of Seviv and you have the Gili of Memale. The Gili of Seviv is where the Eibush just puts forth a ha'ara, it comes out from him, and it doesn't take into consideration the places that it's coming to, and therefore it can't be perceived by the people that it's coming to. Memale, the Eibush takes the light. After he's Megala, the light, he takes it, and he lowers it level after level until it finally is something that can be comprehended, that can be understood and felt by the worlds to which the light comes to. So that's a lower light. So this light that we're talking about is a gila that comes with B'chinas Reimamus, a gila that comes in, so to speak, in an aloof way, in a way where it holds itself higher than the places that it comes to, which is a very high level of light without all of the tzimtzumim of Oir HaMemale. And that's why even though we're saying that the light of the Shekhinah comes down into this world, we use the lashon of Istalik, which could also mean that it's removed, it's distant from us. Okay. And this is why the beginning of the work of the Mishkan was from the krashim, from the beams of wood that were made from cedar wood, from cedar trees. And like the Frierdiker Rebbe explains in his Maimer, this is all continuing with the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer, that keresh, so we have the word keresh for the beams. Who AC is sheket is the same letters from which the word sheket is made of, but but it's just put together in a different order. And therefore it's an inyan shel acher. It's an inyan of otherness, of separateness. Hepech inyan echad, which is the opposite of echad, of oneness, of the oneness of the Eibishter and the entire creation. So you have a situation of sheker. The Yidden come down here into this world and do the aveda of making krashim. In other words, transforming the sheker into a keresh for the Mishkan. Shemahapchim es sheker the elam lekeresh hamishkan. The Yidden take the sheker, the deceit, the lies of this world, and turn it into a keresh for the Mishkan. Krashim the Mishkan. Ashtus to lumazah, and the shtus in lumazah, the irrational behaviors and thoughts of lumazah, we turn them into lishtus tektusha, and that's the meaning of the pasuk atzei shitim lashon shtus. So through this we accomplish the drawing down of the Shekhinah down here into this world, but in a higher way than it was even in the beginning of creation. In other words, Bapashas, what he's saying is like this: when the Eibishter created the world, there was no mitzias of sin, there was no mitzias of dealing with the darkness that's in this world. The Eibishter himself created the world. Masha'en came now that we're in this world, and especially in the world after the Chet. So there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of lies. In every step that a Yid wants to take in serving the Eibishter, he has to deal with his taivas, he has to deal with all of his challenges. Today, the challenges are all about anxieties and fears. Whatever challenges a person, depression, he doesn't know why, he wakes up every morning in a gloomy mood. Whatever it is that bothers people, and glad just the taivas that a person is naturally interested and inclined to enjoy himself and to have a good time. And when it comes time to do business, it's very hard for him to do business the way Torah says you should do business. In other words, limit your hours only to the times of business. And when it's time to daven, go daven. When it's time to take care of your kids, go take care of your kids. You have to deal honestly in business. So in every way, in our personal lives, in our lives as the breadwinners, in our lives as of dealing with our friends, in our lives of everything, of having to do with this world, it's full of sheker and it's full of shtus. We have these things that like the Fidik mentions in his Maimer that won't move. The times of sleeping and the times of eating, we never give up on those. So the Fidik says that we have to turn this whole attitude and this whole approach of what am I into, what am I interested in, what do I enjoy, what do I spend my time on, and what's by me a shtus, what's by me something that's beyond reason, that's not up for negotiation. We have to transform all of that to kedusha. That in my life right now, I had a moment, I had an hour, a minute, or maybe even just a second, where I could have done something that's part of the sheker of Eilam Hazeh, which is part of the lie. What's the lie of Eilam Hazeh? Why is it a lie? Eilam Hazeh is a lie because it covers over on the truth of the world. What's the truth of the world? Eibishter. The Eibishter is the truth of the whole world. You look at the world, you don't see Eibishter anywhere. That's the sheker. So I'm dealing with this sheker where I'm saying I'm not interested in the next few seconds to do something good. And after lachas all of a sudden, I go and then I'll learn for a second, or I'll put something in the pushka, or I'll just have a moment trying to remember what it was that I learned in the morning, whatever it is. Just and slowly but surely go from the seconds to the minutes to the hours of dedicating myself and my time, both in quantity and in quality, in where my passions are, where my interests are, dedicating it to the Eibishter. So this Aveda is now transforming the darkness of this world and the shtus of this world into the light and into the shtus l'maliyusa of kedusha. So this brings the Shekhinah back down here into this world, and it brings it down into this world in a eifin of Yisrael ha'ir min ha'chayshech, a light that's much greater because it's turch, because it's worked on, it's not natural, and therefore it's a much deeper, a much higher and greater light. And that's why Neira Alila al Bnei Adam, that's why the Eibishter engineered in a scheming way that there should be all of these chatoim so that we should do this Aveda. Okay? So over here we have the first just general view on what our mission in this world is. And in the broadest terms, our mission in this world is Dira B'Tachtenim, and how are we supposed to fulfill our mission? Through using this world to serve the Eibishter. In other words, not through running away from this world and being holy and disconnected, but rather through living in this world and using this world to serve the Eibishter. That's how we're going to complete the mission for which the whole world was created. And like I mentioned in the beginning, that this is a mimer that discusses in very broad terms and in very general terms the Aveda until Mashiach comes. Okay. Umamshich b'hamaimer, he continues, the Friedrich Rebbe continues in the Maimer, the Hashem zeh nikra Yisrael, tzivus havaya. That is because of this, that the Yidden are called tzivus havaya. How do you teach tzivus havaya? I'm not sure exactly. You can teach it as groups, as troops. Huh?
Shem's army.
Not yet. That's not the troops. Those aren't the troops. A troop in English special means a group of people, or a group of anything really. It's a group of monkeys. You call a troop. Yeah. Ever paid attention that for some reason in the English language there's different words for different types of animals.
Different from brigade troops.
I never heard the brigade being used in English as saying a group of people. A troop, you could say a troop of people. You could also say lahavdil, a troop of monkeys. You have a pride of lions, a troop of monkeys, a flock of birds, or a flight of birds, a flock of birds, a pack of dogs. You know, you have a different. Anyway, so you have a troop of monkeys, and the word troop is also used for people, a group lahavdil, for a group of people. About Kapanim, so the Tzivus Hashem, the troops, the groups of the Eibishter, the formations of the Eibishter, the Yidden left Mitzrayim. Like it says in the pasuk, it was in the very midst, at the height of the day, like it says in the middle of the day, where nobody could say we didn't see. If we saw it happening, we would have stopped them. No, the Eibishter took out the Yidden right in the height of day, where everybody could see and nobody could stop us. Yatzu kol Tzivus Havayim Eretz Mitzrayim. All of the troops of the Eibishter left Mitzrayim. So what's the connection? Why does the Friedrich Rebbe say that the fact that we do the Aveda of Iskafian is Hapche, of transforming darkness into light, because of that we're called Tzivus Havaya? What's the connection? This, that you didn't have in them the quality that they're not impressed, and that they're not taken, they're not controlled by the darkness and the lies of this world. And not only that, we're not under the spell of the darkness and the lies of this world, but we're in control of the darkness. We transform it to holiness. How do we accomplish this? The only way that we're able to do it is because Yidden have within us the quality of Mesiras Nefesh, of forsaking what we want, forsaking what's supposed to be, forsaking what makes sense, and instead going in a way where we give away our very life. And in an eifin of Kabbalah's oil, in an eifin of not asking questions, just doing as we're told. And that's why we got the name Tzivus Havaya, because Tzvah, troops, like you mentioned before, is Lashon Chayil, is also a Lashon of an army. Tzava. A Tzava is an army. So this, because we do the Aveda of Iskafian and Ishapcha, which is the Aveda of living within darkness and saying that no, the darkness doesn't define me, the darkness doesn't control me. I will define the darkness. I will turn from the darkness into light. And the only way that we could possibly have the strength to do that is if we go with Mesiras Nefesh and Kabbalah. So if we try to go with Seichel, and if we try to go with Midas, we're going to fall. In other words, if we try to go with where our passions lie, we're not going to be able to be passionate about enough in order to overcome the darkness. The darkness will win us, and our passions will be in the darkness. If we try to do our Aveda with Seichel, again, the Seichel won't succeed. The Seichel will eventually be overtaken by the darkness. It's not strong enough to stand up to the darkness of this world. The only way that we could deal with it is through Mesiras Nefesh, saying I'm going beyond reason, and I'm going beyond my own personality, my own character, and what's my job and what's not my job. None of it matters. I'm giving my very self over to the Eibishter and saying that I'm doing it with everything that I have, and I'm doing it in even of Kabbalah soil, whatever the Eibishter says, that's what I'm doing without me assessing whether I should be doing it or not. So because of this approach, that's the way soldiers work in an army. I think I mentioned in an earlier series, the Rebbe describes that the very nature, the most basic fundamental requirement of a soldier is to listen to his commander. If a soldier were to decide on his own where to position himself and where to shoot and when to shoot, he could bring a tragedy and a defeat to the entire army. And it's known from all the stories and all the Mishalim from the Chassidim about the soldiers in Russia and the Tsar. Yeah, that the primary fundamental characteristic of a soldier is Mesiras Nefesh. He's willing to give his life, and Kabbalah soil, his obedience to his commander. So that's why we were given the name of Tava, that we are an army, we are soldiers in the Eibishter's army. And that's why the Yidden were given this name, Dafka, when they left Mitzrayim. The Torah is that Tzivus Havaya nit only so b'tzias Mitzrayim Dafka, ki ha'aveda begolos Mitzrayim al derech ze b'chol ha'golius, because what's the Aveda? What was the Aveda of the Yidden in Mitzrayim? And what's the Aveda of Yidden in every exile and every Golos, including the Golos that we're living in now? The Kol HaMalchius Nikru al Shem Mitzrayim, because all of the kingdoms, all of the nations under which the Yidden live are called Mitzrayim. Why are they called Mitzrayim? Al Shem Shem Mitzeres Li Yisrael. They make eng, they machen eng, Yiddishkeit and Yidden. They constrict and they make it difficult and hard for Yiddishkeit and for Yidden. So our Aveda and Golus Mitzrayim, and so too our Aveda and every other Golus, because Golus Mitzrayim is the model for, and Yetzias Mitzrayim is also the model for the Golus that we're in now and the Gula that we're going to come to soon, immediately. Mirtzesha. He be'ef in the Kabbalah Salam is Nefesh Tavke. The Aveda of the Yidden and Golus Mitzrayim is an Eifin of Kabbalah Salam is Nefesh. And what did they accomplish, the Yidden, through this Kabbalah? And that's why they were given Dafka then the name of soldiers in the Eibishter's army. And what did they accomplish through their Aveda? Through the Aveda of the Yidden Mitzrayim and the Eifin of Kabbalah Elam Mitzvahs Nefesh Dafka. So they were able to bring about that in their communities, in their neighborhoods, they had light. Listen to this observation of the Rebbe. The Yidden in Mitzrayim had light before Yetzias Mitzrayim. In other words, when we do the Aved of Kabbalah Salam Mesiris Nefesh, we could expect to have light even before it comes to the time of the Gula of Mashiach. We can have light still over here while we're here in Galus. And not only was the light in their immediate area, in their own place, to every single place where a Yid entered. Not only in Rosh Hashanah, even if you went into the house of the Mitzvah himself. Like we know what happened during Makas Cheshech, that the light entered with him and made light for him and shone for him Masha Bechavius, what was hidden by the Mitzri in his barrels of Betevis and in his chests, Ubematmunias, and in the hiding places. And this that the Yidden were able to bring about first to themselves and then to everywhere, including in the hiding places, this was the preparation and what brought about later that the Yidden took the wealth of Mitzrayim with them, emptied Mitzrayim from all of its wealth. They refined all of the sparks of holiness that were in Mitzrayim. And afterwards was an even greater taking of the wealth of the Mitzrayim, of Mitzrayim when they left. This biza, this looting, this taking the possessions and the wealth of Mitzrayim was even greater than what they did when they left Mitzrayim. So why was this? I thought you'd tell me that the Yidden went with light and they brought light to the place of darkness, and through this they were able to attract and draw out all of the sparks of holiness, of Kedusha, with them out of Mitzrayim. So why were some of the sparks still left? Why were the Mitzrayim still left with wealth that the Yidden only got during Kriyas Yamsuf? So he says like this, that this same Aved of Kabbalah Salam Mesiris Nefesh that gave us the first result, which was we took the Nitzitzis with ourselves. Even those sparks that we couldn't refine the first time around. Because these Nitzitzis were in the ultimate and complete concealment. These Nitzitzis were in a concealed state, even greater than the concealed state of the Nitzitzis that were hidden in the hiding places of the Mitzrayim, which those were revealed through the light. In other words, you have two levels of concealment. You have one level of concealment that all you need to do is just shine a little bit of light, and now like a magnet, you activate the Nitzitzis, the sparks, and they join the light, they come to the torch, they come to the Avuka, and now you took them out, you drew them out of the place of darkness. But then you have Nitzitzis that are even more concealed, and they forget that they're light, so to speak. They lose this quality within them that they're light. We learned this, Batsim. I'm explaining this based on what the Rebbe says in the other in the Maimon that we just finished learning in Pada B'Shalom, Tafshin Chav Gimel. So these sparks are in such a concealment, in such a state of being hidden, that you could shine as much light as you want, It doesn't help the nitzitzis. It doesn't take out the nitzitzis at all. Why? Because what will light affect? The light that you're shining will affect things that react to light. In order for it to react to the light that you're shining on it, it has to have a little bit of a quality of life in it, of light in it. Maybe it's hidden, but it has to have some of that quality. It has to be the same type of a thing. A nitzitz, a spark that's completely hidden, that it has no more the qualities of light, won't be affected by the light that you shine on it. So it lost that. And what had to happen? So for that, a nitzitz was nech ba'oira. As is the Lashon Chassidus. Sie hat nicht können, was geblieben ist, nur der Ätzem von der Nitzitz. Es ist ein Nitzitz von Kedusha. Nicht der Hispashtus. Chtichatz Manasses Nevela is one concept that's brought about it, where it's azay verzunken in the Klippe as man sagt dort in gar nicht, there's nothing there. Gar nicht Göttlichkeit, gar nicht. The only thing that's left is in the different others as be'etzem, the etzem from the nitzitz. That was mechalek. There's the etzem of the nitzitz and there's the hispashtus of the nitzitz. This that a nitzitz is made, it has to do more with the hispashtus. So, but tiffer from them is the etzem from the nitzitz. So a nitzitz that still has a shtikul from hispashtus from air. So when you shine an avuka, so it's gonna come to the avuka. But a nitzitz that's nechba eira legamri, it doesn't respond to light at all. So Deb over here doesn't say why Pare himself ended up bringing them, but that's what happened. Pare, in other words, the Mitzrayim went out to fight against the Yidden in Yam Suf, and they decorated all of their chariots and their horses, and probably themselves also. They decorated with the cheswas, with the zahav, and with gold and diamonds and all the precious kalim that they had. So. And they went out to war. And then what happened? They sunk in the Yam Suf, and the Yam Suf spit them out. And now the Yidden had all of their wealth, all of the riches. So Pare himself had to come and bring it. So the Rebbe doesn't explain what's the mechanism over here. Why does Pare himself bring it? But
Pare himself bring it? What do you mean himself? He was also spit out from the.
It's just over there.
Him and his army.
It says I don't know why he attributes it to Pare, but as I said, he Pare Atzmei Yavim.
That was saved.
But the pastors used to the sipper is pashat from all the soldiers that died and their wagons and their horses and what they were carrying with them and their supplies. That's where it came from. And Pare was leading. Yeah, and Pare was leading them. So it says Pare led his army to the Yidden, and then they got everything. I guess that's why he's attributing it to Pare. So but what's this Indian? That you have a nitzitz that's so hidden that you need Pare himself. So this Pare will bring. You think it's the opposite. If you have a nitzitz that's not so hidden, so then maybe Pare will bring it. But a nitzitz that's completely hidden, dafka, this Pare brings. That isn't Mavir over here at all. But in the Maimer that we learned, the previous Maimer, in the part of the Shalom Maimer that we learned, so we learned in Akuda that when a Yid brings out the Yechidah Benafshe, that Shalamayla Mihispashtas. So he brings out also the etzem truth of the world. What's the etzem truth of the world? The kavanah for which it was created. What's the deepest truth? That's mamish, the most plimiistic, the real truth, the truest truth of the world is why was it created? That's the truth of everything. The truth of everything is for what reason are you here? That's the truth of everything.
Essence.
Well, the essence of everything. You could say, in other words, there's a table over here. So you want to look at it in a very, technical way. So you could say there's a table over here because somebody took a piece of wood and cheswas and legs and whatever it is. But the real reason why this table is here is because somebody wanted a place where you could put Sfarim down. And Lu Yitzir, that this table now became a place where you can't put Sfarim down for whatever reason. The table will be thrown out. The reason why anything exists is the reason for is its purpose. The truth, in other words, of the existence of everything is its purpose. So the purpose of this world, which is its deepest truth, is to serve the Eibishter. And then when that becomes revealed, so now Ilam Haza itself starts saying, use me, please help, please take me and make me part of serving the Eibishter. So L'chura, that's the word that Pari Melech Mitzrayim himself came and brought it, because the Yidden were Megala within the world, the reason for which it was created, and therefore the world itself says, here, I belong to Kedusha, I belong to the Eibishter. Says, When you're on a lower level and you're dealing with madregas and kedusha, so over there you'll only affect the world that you're shaykh to affect, that's impressed by the kedusha. But when you're dealing with the etzem, zach, the truth of everything, which is that the Eibishter created it to serve him, so now you can affect every single part of the world because this is the truth of every single part of the world. So now the world itself will start helping you serving the Eibishter. That's the Nakud of the Rebbe in the Potter Shalom Chav Gimel. That the world itself will start helping you because you revealed its deepest truth, that it's there to serve the Eibishter. So that's what happened later. That's the beer why Pari himself brought them, because they were megal of the truth within it. It's not a mugadik maimer, so we don't have the artists of the Rebbe, and there's no tziyunim over here to a place where this idea is discussed. So that's why I'm being mevar based on that maimer. About Kopanim Shichul, you saw Levar Sayam. Pari wanted that the Yidden should be mevar, should refine these netzitzes in the biz of the Yam. And what did that accomplish later? And Biza Sayam and Kriyas Yamsuf Bechlal was Achana for Matan Torah Commission. Cause like it says by Kriyas by Yamsuf, it says Vayasa Moshe Yisrael mi Yamsuf. Moshe Rabbeinu journeyed. He made the Yidden move on from Yamsuf. She see some Biza Sayam and Matan Torah, that there was a continuation from Biza Sayam to Matan Torah. And this all came about through what? The Aved of Kabbalah Selim Mitzvahs Nefs that Yidden had in Mitzrayim. In other words, you have a situation of Cheshach, you have a situation of Mitzrayim, and over there, inside this Cheshach and inside this Mitzrayim, you have Yidden. Yidden are not spoiled from the Cheshach. Why? Because they have Kabbalah Selim Mitzvahs Nefesh. Through this, first of all, they bring light to themselves, somewhere wherever the Yidden are themselves. And then they continue and bring the light even to the place of darkness, even to the places of the Mitzrayim, and they pull out any remnants of good that were trapped in the Mitzrayim, they pull it out. And not only that, they even cause the Mitzrayim themselves to bring even greater Eitzris on their own to the Yidden. And not only that, we come from that, it leads even to Matan Torah, to the Gili of the Eibishter, where the Eibishter opened up all of the heavens and he came down onto this world, the Gili of Atzmos Amos in this world itself. And that's all the result of the Aved of Yidden in Kabbalah Salam Sis Nefesh in Golus, and Kamuvin also in our Golus. And now we can understand in a deeper Eifin why we're called Tzivis Havaya, the full meaning of this combination of words, Tzivis Havaya, the soldiers of Havaya. The Tzivis Havaya, Shem Hatoyar, Tzivis Havaya is not a name of the thing itself. The Shem Tzivis Havaya isn't saying like Havaya Likim or Likim Havaya, because it's not the Shem Tzvois. The Shem Zen is Gal El Dan Nevim Davka. This name was first revealed through the Nevim Hashenkim B'Teira, the Seis and the Chamish Chum Shetera, the Huska Shem Zen. You don't have the name Tzvois. So when it says over here Tzivis Havaya, what is it talking about? When we say Tzivis Havaya in Chamish Chum Shetera, what we're saying is that we're describing somebody, not he himself, we're describing that he is completely tafel and bottle to something, to Shem Havaya. So what's the significance of this being bottled to Shem Havaya? And what does it have to do with the Aveda of Yidden, of transforming light into darkness? So he says like this. This name describes the bittul of Kabbalah's oil, which is the meaning of a soldier, lehavaya to Shem Havaya, which is higher than Teva. And since we were bottled to Havaya, which is higher than Teva, we refined and we elevated all of the sparks that were in Mitzrayim, which is Ervas Haaretz, the very lowest part of the world. In other words, within the Tachtein, Mitzrayim was the lowest place. Including also the Nitzaitis, like we just mentioned, by Kriyas Yamsuf, that were in the ultimate state of being hidden and concealed. Why? Why is Tzivis Havaya? Why is the Bittul to Shem Havaya, the Kabbalah's oil to Shem Havaya, take all of the Nitzaitis out of even the deepest Halamas Vestem? So he explains. From where does Halam Vester come from? From Shem Elikim, the Gematria HaTeva. It comes from Shem Elikim, which is Gematria HaTeva. V'hagam shel Elikim hu lashon elikus. And even though Shem Elikim is a lashon of elikus, in other words, Eibishter Getlichkeit, Heiligkeit, V'rak v'gematria hateva, and it's only that it has the gematria hateva. Hainu demashu elikus hu by begilu. So if the word itself is elikus, that means that what do you see in Shem Elikim? You see begilu, you see elikus. Masha'enkin in hateva shaboy hu behelem rumas v'hagematria shaboy. It's expressed only in a gematria, so the concealment dimension of Shem Elikim is behelem. You don't see that in Shem Elikim. Mikomakim, nevertheless, who sheiru shemakar leteva. From Shem Elikim is the root and the source from where nature comes from. What do we mean? What does teva mean? That the getliche light, the godly light, comes through a process of a tremendous amount of concealments and constrictions. Ha'alamis ve'estadim, being hidden and covered over and concealed b'yeser, to an extreme. That's what hateva means. Losing tubu b'yamsuf, something that's drowned in the water. When something is drowned in the water, it's completely concealed. You can't see it. In other words, shaha'ayr, the aid of Shem Elikim, who mutba, is completely drowned by hester v'ahelim b'yeser. As the Fidik Rebbe discusses at length in the Hemshech of Basi Lagani in Perik Yud Gimel, which is the chapter immediately before the chapter for this year, Perik Yud Dalet. So what's the problem? The problem is that the chayis in this world, the creation of this world, came through Shem Elikim. And in Shem Elikim, you have this dimension of concealment, where things are concealed, and take that down through a nearly infinite amount of tzimtzumim and halamas and estadim. You'll end up with a situation where the elikus aspect of Shem Elikim is completely drowned. Teva, Milashin Tuvu, is completely drowned in all of the halamas estadim, and then Yitaka can't see any elikus, and Yitaka can't do nothing with it. However, the Yidden did something else. The Yidden were the soldiers of Havaya. They were bottle habitul the Kabbalah Sol lehavaya shalamayla mehateva. They were bottle and they had Kabbalah Sol to Shem Havaya, which is higher than nature, which is higher than all of these concealments. Through this bittul to Shem Havaya, we reveal and we refine all of the sparks that were in the ultimate level of state of concealment, and we elevate them and bring them to kedusha. And now we can make for the Eibishter a dwelling place in this world, mamish in the place of Helen v'Hester. In the lowest place, in the lowest realm, where there is nothing lower than this place. In other words, the Aveda of the Yidden in this world is the Aveda of Tivus Havaya, where we say that where are we? We exist in Teva, in a place that's a Tachtin. A Tachtin Shein Tachtin Lamata Imenu, because the Eid Eliki, the Shem Elikim, was completely drowned and sunk into the Teva, into the concealments of nature. And what do we do over here? We say, no, we're not going to be bottled to the level of Elikim. In other words, like this. If the whole quality of a Yid was that he served an Eibishter who he can understand, I think there's even an episode book with the name, the Eibishter of our understanding. I'm not giving it the right name. I think a Yiddish Trachter, I'm not sure what the title of the book is, but it's an interesting name. The Eibishter of our understanding. If a Yid would be bottled, and if a Yid only had Kabbalah Soul to the level of elikus that he understands that there's an Eibishter, he looks on this world and he says, wow, the creator of this world must be so great that it's roi to have Mesiras Nefesh to him, it's roi to have Kabbalah Soil to him, but the whole level of elikus that he acknowledges, that he's aware of, is a level of the Eibishter that's be'erech to what he can understand. How does he teach that? That there's aretz, and just like there's aretz, that's a certain place, a certain level, and Shemayim is higher than aretz, and it's something a little bit beyond my reach. So the Eibishter is a little bit more beyond my reach, but he's not beyond reach in the first at all. He's within reach. No, he's just like the heavens is beyond my reach. So the Eibishter is beyond the reach of heavens. Drachai min darkeichem. So the Eibishter has a derech. There's my ways that I can understand. I'm a very small person. I can understand very little. Gavu drachem edakeichem. The Eibishter ways are much greater than my ways, but they're ways. He has a definition for the Eibishter. This is all their nemen alikus in the Madeg of Shem Elikim. And over there is already Shaykh Shbi Halamas Vestated. And if a Yid only connects himself and has Kabbalah Soil and says Nefesh to the Eibishter that he can agree with, that he can like, that he can understand, that he can experience and feel, this Madrega of Elikus is not going to work. Because this Madrega of Elikus is the place where all the Halamas Vestadim eventually come out of, and therefore, if you're dealing with a place that you're living under the Memshala, under the control of the Halamas Vestadim, how are you going to overcome them? Therefore, the Yid not to do a different way. The Tzivus Savaya. The Yid knows, and his neshama is connected to this Madrega of Shem Havaya, which is beyond anything. It's not begeder that I could say. It's something that I can't understand. I can't even call it something. I'm lost. I'm at a complete loss. I understand that there's no way. There's no way to have any connection to it. And to this I say that I'm a Yid. The Eibishter took me, he connected me to him. And to him I have complete Kabbalah Soul, complete Mesiras Nefesh. His whole view of the world is completely different over here. He laughs at the world in the first place. The Yid who says Teira in Derech Eretz. So he says, Taka Feran Teira. And Teira is Taka Hecher und Gresser. Teira is greater and more beautiful than everything that there is in this world. But there is a world, and the world is very real. And you have to be, in your home you could be a Yid, and when you leave your home, though, you have to take into account you have to behave in the ways to make money. You have to, the business has to be a good one, the way Elam Hazah says a business has to be a good one, not the way Teira says a business has to be a good one. So a Yid takes this approach, he's not going to make it in this world. If that's his view. The view of a Yid has to be that the Shem Havaya, in other words, is the Eibishter is completely beyond anything. There isn't a world. The world is nothing more than the Eibishter himself, just the way the Eibishter concealed himself, but it's the Eibishter. And he takes this approach, now he can overcome, and he could transform all of the Halamas V'Estadim, even the greatest Halamas V'Estadim. And through this, he does the Aveda of transforming the darkness that he came in touch with into light, and he brings the Shechina back down here into this world, and he brings Dira B'Tachenim and brings Mashiach. And that's the kitzur of the union of Basi Lagani until Eis Yudalid. And Mitzvah Shem, next year we're going to focus on Eis Yudalid, which is the Eis for this year.
Shkeach.
Shkeach.
Ay, 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 ay.